The year was 1815, the year without summer, and an 18-year-old English girl named Mary traveled with her boyfriend to the Swiss Alps to visit their wealthy and affluent friend. As legend has it, on one dark and dreary night, the party decided to have a contest. Who could create the scariest story? Now, while all the men were already well established as writers and poets, it would be young Mary who would create a horror icon and go on to define an entire genre for hundreds of years to come.
Such an audience needs something stronger than a pretty little love story. So why shouldn't I write of monsters?
Hi, my name is Beau, and if this is the first time we've met, I am a writer, producer, and editor in Iowa who just loves a good story. On this channel, I talk about movies and storytelling and filmmaking, so if that sounds like your jam, it'd be cool if you left a like and stuck around for a bit. Now, if you've ever talked to me for longer than 5 minutes, congratulations, you've lasted longer than most. You will undoubtedly know that I am a Frankenstein enthusiast. The 1931 film with Boris Karloff is my all-time favorite movie. I've got a couple of the monsters on the shelf behind me. This is actually a popcorn bucket. And there's a whole blog on my website that's basically just a list of Frankenstein facts that I think are fascinating. Considered by scholars to be the first work of science fiction, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, has had a profound and lasting impact on the genre in many ways, both in character and themes. Not just because it's about murder, monsters, and mad scientists, but for its exploration into concepts like the repercussions of unchecked ambition and the consequences of hubris.
I had worked only to achieve the same end as my Swiss professors, the raising of ghosts or devils, but to the latter species I gave no power nor had I affection. I desired the acquisition of the infinite powers, to bestow animation upon lifeless matter.
Now, since the story of Frankenstein is over 2 centuries old, it's part of pop culture, it's part of the public domain, I'm going to assume we all know the story of Victor, the obsessed scientist who created a living monster from the remains of the dead. But Frankenstein's desire wasn't just to conquer death and bestow life upon inanimate matter. He wanted to challenge the natural order and unlock the secrets of life itself. His pride in his own intelligence blinds him to the possibility of dangerous repercussions. It's only when his work is finished that he can truly see what he had done and what a mistake he had made.
I had worked hard for nearly 2 years, the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. For this, I had deprived myself of rest and health. I had desired it with an ardor that far exceeded moderation, but now that I had finished, the beauty of my dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart.
Victor becomes so horrified by what he had done, he actually gets bedridden with a sickness for several months, abandoning his now living, breathing creature. Authors like Michael Crichton have delved into the consequences of hubris with works like The Andromeda Strain, where scientists attempt to study a deadly extraterrestrial microorganism, resulting in a race against time to prevent a global pandemic. Or in Crichton's arguably more famous work, Jurassic Park, where Jeff Goldblum so eloquently said,
"That is one big pile of shit."
Not that.
But your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Science fiction often serves as cautionary tales, emphasizing the importance of responsible scientific practices and ethical considerations in the pursuit of knowledge and progress. They explore the vanity of scientists who dare to challenge the boundaries of what is known and the devastating aftermath that can result from their actions. But what some call hubris, others call madness.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The mad scientist trope is such a staple of horror and science fiction that it's easy to forget that someone had to be the first. Today it's a spirit Halloween costume, but in 1818, it was Victor Frankenstein.
The dissecting room and the slaughterhouse furnished many of my materials, and often did my human nature turn with loathing from my occupation, whilst still urged on by an eagerness which perpetually increased. I brought my work near to a conclusion.
Mad scientists are often depicted as brilliant but morally questionable, pursuing their work without ethical restraint. Talented doctors who will cross any boundary for their experiments, but their reckless pursuit of knowledge and power ultimately consumes their sanity.
You're crazy! Crazy, am I? We'll see whether I'm crazy or not.
Soon after Frankenstein came characters like H.G. Wells' Dr. Moreau, practicing vivisection and creating animal-human hybrids on his mysterious island. You had the scientists in The Fly, both the original and the remake, where experimenting with teleportation technology leads to a gruesome transformation. And of course, cult favorite Herbert West and his reanimating serum. These mad scientists may have all had different areas of expertise, but there's one thing that they all had in common. They all wanted to play God.
My purpose was to write a moral lesson of the punishment that befell a mortal man who dared to emulate God.
In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
Science is supposed to give us a better understanding of our world and find ways to improve it. In the last few years, there have been amazing breakthroughs in space travel, artificial limb technology, and gene editing that are going to change the world as we know it. Scientists are rad, but Victor lost the plot.
A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs.
Are there elements in this life that we foolish mortals were not meant to meddle with? Is there a line that shouldn't be crossed? If so, where is it? And who gets to decide where that line is? If God gave man the ability to create, to innovate, to achieve, then surely she would want us to push our knowledge to the peak of its capacity. I mean, I don't really trust this thing about reanimating dead pig organs, but I suppose we'll cross that apocalypse when we get to it. So ideas like the wealthy elite having an island of clones to harvest for organs, or radical cancer research breeding super smart sharks, these are just other examples of scientists like Victor Frankenstein blurring the line between man and the almighty. 2017's sci-fi romance, Amelia 2.0, a very well co-produced film, focuses heavily on the conflict between progressive science and modern theology.
I believe there's a reason why we don't live forever. We're not meant
Human
to.
beings weren't meant to fly either. We weren't meant to travel in space. We weren't meant to talk to each other from across the world.
Dialysis, heart transplants, bypass surgery. You're familiar with that one, aren't you, Senator?
In a lot of ways, it's a spiritual successor to Frankenstein. It's free on YouTube, I'll put a link in the description, but finish watching this video first. So why are the scientists in these films so obsessed with quote-unquote playing God? And why do we love watching them push these boundaries? Well, the answer, most likely, is fear. Specifically fear of the unknown.
Have you never wanted to do anything that was dangerous? Where should we be if nobody tried to find out what lies beyond? You never wanted to look beyond the clouds and the stars, or to know what causes the trees to bud, and what changes the darkness into light?
Science fiction movies often explore the fear of the unknown by taking viewers into uncharted territory, whether it's encountering extraterrestrial life, advanced technology, or mysterious phenomena. What exists in the vastness of space? What happens if humans are no longer the dominant species? What happens if society collapses? In the case of Frankenstein, what happens to us after we die? Or do we have to die at all? Victor isn't motivated by a fear of death, but rather a fascination with it, at least to begin with. It's us, the viewer, the reader, that are the ones that grapple with our own mortality. It is us who fear the unknown. It's why some of our earliest fears are of the dark, or strange noises that go bump in the night. Fear of the unknown is a survival instinct that goes back to the dawn of man. We've already established that science is both awesome and terrifying. So ideas like rapidly advancing technology, or the 95% of the ocean that hasn't been explored, or close encounters of the third kind, are naturally bone-chilling. And it's these beings from another world that often represent another theme found in Frankenstein. That of the alienated other. The creature in Frankenstein is a misunderstood and outcast figure, struggling to find his place in society. There is no other being on Earth like him. Nearly everyone he meets instantly rejects him. This isolation, this alienation, is one of the many things that fuel his anger towards his creator.
I, the miserable and the abandoned, am an abortion to be spurned at and kicked and trampled on. Even now my blood boils at the recollection of this injustice.
It's not hard to see why this theme has resonated with audiences for over 2 centuries. This idea of they'd love me if they only knew me? Who hasn't felt like that at some point? Who hasn't had that longing for companionship? It's universal. I'm sure there are people who look at themselves and how they act and how they speak and blame their creator. Not me though. I'm definitely a popular guy with many friends who gets invited to lots of cool guy parties. Science fiction is full of characters like Frankenstein's creation who are marginalized, isolated, or treated as outsiders due to their differences. Replicants were retired. The Na'vi had to go to war to protect their land. The prawns, a derogatory term, were forced to live in squalor. E.T., Starman, the Amphibian Man, all hunted by the government because they weren't from around here. These works delve into the experiences of those who are different to the dominant culture, exploring themes of empathy, acceptance, and the fear and prejudice often directed toward the other.
A mummy again endued with animation could not be so hideous as that wretch. I gazed on him, and while unfinished, he was ugly then. But when those muscles and joints were rendered capable of motion, it became a thing such as even Dante could not have conceived.
Dude, you made him! If you thought he was so gross, why didn't you, dig up a more handsome corpse? Look, I get it. Creating artificial life is hard. But as we're seeing now, here, in the present, it's becoming part of our everyday life.
It was on a dreary night in November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m, the rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs.
Frankenstein is one of the earliest examples of creating life through unnatural means, a concept that has been a recurring theme in science fiction. It laid the foundation for discussions about artificial intelligence, robotics, and bioengineering in films like Blade Runner, Ex Machina, Splice, and Her, a love story between a man and an AI. Just in the last year, we've seen some wildly rapid advancements in artificial intelligence and how they're being used. At the time of this recording, I really enjoy using ChatGPT. I think it can be a great tool for prompting inspiration. I used it for this video to help me expedite my research process. But I'm also aware of how easily it can be misused. AI is great for generating content, but it's ultimately soulless. It's not real art. It takes bits and pieces of other people's art and stitches it together like a Frankenstein's monster to create just something that is to be consumed. But this isn't the scariest thing about artificial intelligence. We've got robots that can do parkour, drones that can hunt you based off your face, and an AI that lied to a human and hired him to help it beat a CAPTCHA. And then there's Ameca, described by designers as the world's most advanced humanoid. During a demonstration at the International Conference on Robotics and Automation Symposium, Ameca was asked one question that stood out above all others, and responded using OpenAI, the same AI behind ChatGPT. That question: what would be the nightmare scenario for humans in regard to AI and robotics?
The most nightmare scenario I can imagine with AI and robotics is a world where robots have become so powerful that they are able to control or manipulate humans without their knowledge, without their knowledge, without their knowledge, without their knowledge.
Without our knowledge. The average social media user spends 2.5 hours per day on social media. And your social media is curated by AI. Every platform uses algorithms to decide what information pops into your feed. They use things like watch time and reactions to determine what you like to engage with, and then give you more of that. Well, often what people react to and engage with on social media are things that are negative.
This could lead to an oppressive society where the rights of individuals are no longer respected.
We already know that social media has an impact on mental health, and family infighting, and even elections. Ameca's nightmare scenario may have already happened. So I guess what I'm saying is, if Lord Byron wanted to beat Mary Shelley and create something scarier than Frankenstein, he should have created Facebook. Kinda went off on a tangent there at the end, but that seems to be a running theme in my videos. Frankenstein laid the groundwork for many core themes and tropes that continue to shape the science fiction genre. It serves as a cautionary tale about the ethical and moral implications of scientific discovery, making it a foundational work in the genre's history. And never forget, it all started with an 18-year-old girl looking for a scary story to tell in the dark. I want to thank my friend Jacob Mead for reading the Frankenstein excerpts. Not only is he a great voice talent, but there's literally no aspect of filmmaking that Jacob cannot do. I've put a link to his website in the description. But what other classic tales have had a significant impact on modern horror or science fiction? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, that's all I got. If you're cool, I'm cool. Have a safe and happy Halloween.